All right, so let's now talk about the first civilizations in West Asia and Egypt. Okay, and Mesopotamia, which is located in modern day Iraq, and Egypt, which of course is located in northwest Africa. You can see it right here in this map, were probably the world's first two civilizations. Mesopotamia probably was first. Egypt followed shortly thereafter. If you look at this map, you can see this is Egypt, the Nile River. This is a bigger view of where Egypt is located in northeast Africa. And this is Mesopotamia. So these people were probably trading with each other for hundreds, if not 1,000+ years before they grew into these great civilizations. And you know, anytime people traded stuff, they also traded ideas. Hold on, I'm seeing a lot of things in my chat. Let me just see what's going on here. All right, there's nothing that important. So Mesopotamia was located in modern-day Iraq between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. The Egyptian civilization began up and down the Nile River, and they both had something in common. And that was that they were located next to rivers that regularly flooded. Every year, these rivers would flood around the same time. And I'm not sure if you guys ever had the experiences that I had growing up. But I used to have a buddy, okay? It was Tim Navarro. And Tim lived near the Big Tonga River, okay, in that area. I guess it's, I don't know what that, like Tonga, right? And you can see here the Nile River. And we would go hang out in the river that was kind of near the back edge of his backyard. And my mom would always tell me, she'd be like, Mike, make sure you wear your shoes when you go in the river because there's going to be glass at the bottom of the river. But as long after we turned the bend, right, my mom couldn't see me anymore, I would take off my shoes because they'd get all muddy. And if you've ever actually stood in the bottom of a river, you'll find the dirt down there is extremely soft and spongy and squishy, and your foot sinks down and the dirt kind of seeps up in between your toes. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. And when the river flooded and went into the outsides of the river, there's a floodplain is called it. This is how far the river widens when it floods. All of that soft dirt, which is extremely fertile, would settle on the land in the floodplain, which is located on the outsides of the river. So then this area would be ideal for growing crops because every year you'd get a fresh layer of soil, and every year you could then replant your crops and they would grow perfectly. Now, I'm not sure if any of you have ever had a backyard garden. I did growing up. We actually have, my wife's really into gardening, so we've cut a third of my lawn off and turned it into my wife's front yard garden. And we have tomatoes right now, and jalapenos and some fruit trees. It's actually really fun. My wife's wonderful. But one thing you might know about a garden is that you can't grow the same stuff year after year in the same soil, or else the soil runs out of nutrients and then nothing will grow there for a prolonged period of time. Now, we've learned as advanced humans that you can fertilize the soil, you can compost the soil, you can find ways to make that soil continue to last. But historically, what they used to do is they used to let land sit for a year every 3 years, or else that land's soil would run out of nutrients. But if you lived along a river that flooded, like say the Nile River or maybe the Tigris or Euphrates River in Iraq, you didn't have to let the land sit for a year for it to replenish its nutrients. So you could just keep growing year after year after year after year. So what we find often is that many of these early civilizations were built around rivers that flooded regularly because they didn't know about the nutrients in the soil. But what they did know is that you can just grow stuff here all the time, and it works. So whether it be Egypt, Mesopotamia, along the Ganges River of India, or the yellow Yangtze River of China, many of these early civilizations began around rivers that flooded regularly and provided fresh soil to the area. And then they had time to build a society, create gods, have a government system, um, have some sort of art, have writing systems so that we can read and understand things and learn about their civilizations through reading their writings. I don't know if anyone here has had the pleasure of visiting a museum when Egypt came along, but I have. Um, and one thing I was struck by was how tall the statues are. They're not man-sized. They're 10 feet, 15 feet tall. They're these massive, massive statues. They're really awe-inspiring. On top of that, in Egypt, um, I saw Tut. So we went and checked out all the stuff in his tomb. And I mean, the artwork that they were producing is amazing and beautiful. And I was lucky enough to see it over at LACMA the last time that Tut came to town. So great civilizations and advancements, early government, art, religions of the period. Speaking of religion, another important area in West Asia was this area right here, the area of modern day Israel that actually was also ancient Israel. And there was a period of probably 2,000 years or 1,900 years when there was no Israel, when the Israelis were kicked out of this land and dispersed by the Romans. And then after World War II, the modern state of Israel was recreated in that same location. It's kind of controversial because there were people living there at the time, and we'll get into that later, because those people, of course, lost part of their land. But in ancient Israel is where the religion of Judaism was created. And I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but Judaism is like the grandmother religion of Christianity, or which is the mother religion of Islam. Like if you had a chart, you would see Judaism on top. And Judaism is really a lot of their book of faith is the Old Testament to the Bible. I mean, when you add the New Testament plus the Old Testament, you get Christianity, which is the most populous religion in the world. And then when you add the Quran to the Old Testament and the New Testament, you get Islam, which is the second most populous religion in the world. So actually, these three great religions, which all believe in monotheism, which is the belief in one God, versus the belief in many gods, which most early religions believed in many gods of nature, the sun god, the rain god, the sea god, the love god. They oftentimes would try to explain nature, not understanding it, by just saying, oh, that was the gods who did that. But these religions created the idea of a single God, but they're all connected. And it's ironic and frankly sad that oftentimes these religions are fighting with each other when really they're cousins, right? They're all related to each other. So Judaism began around the year 2000, maybe in that area, BC. I mean, the ancient period in ancient Israel. We have three great early civilizations that began in this same basic area: Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Israel. And there's not a lot in the book about it, but we also have an empire called Persia that was created in modern day Iran that was also great and powerful and important, and who shared many ideas with the Mesopotamians and the Egyptians and the Israelites, and helped create really what was a flourishing and beautiful culture in West Asia and